Okay, good afternoon. It is Monday, February the 8th, and we are here for a board workshop. Per board policy 1.11, members are permitted to attend the meeting via phone. Today we will have Ms. Giovanelli, who will be joining us by phone, and also Ms. Morgan will be on the phone until she arrives, but she is on her way here. So I just wanted to get that out of the way so we can begin our meeting. On the agenda today, we have the agenda review for the February 9th regular meeting, which is approximately 60 minutes. Next on the agenda will be the prioritized workshop topics for the board members. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Atkins, please.
All right, so we're going to do the prioritize, because mine, it has the agenda review first.
Yes, the agenda review first.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Correct. Thank you.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move to the agenda review. The first item that we have is a question for Human Resources, and I don't see her in the audience today, but I think I may be able to respond anyway. The question is, please explain AP moves. If two are going to Dunbar Middle, have you replaced their positions and at Island Coast? So I think I have that response. We do allow principals to make hiring decisions at their school, and at this time Island Coast is in the process of is choosing not to replace Mr. Woods, is what the response that came from Dr. Pruitt.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand the...
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing you too.
All right, the response from Dr. Pruitt is we allow principals to make the hiring decisions at their school. Okay, so anytime it says, please explain the AP moves. If two are going to Dunbar Middle, have you replaced their positions at Island Coast? The response I got from Dr. Pruitt is we allow principals to make hiring decisions at their school, so they're allocated a certain number of positions. That would be approved through the budget process. And at this time, she's informing us that Island Coast is choosing not to replace Mr. Woods.
And how many...
Ms. Gittins, did you have a question?
Yes, how many... I guess my question basically was in movement, leaving a hole in one place, and were there APs that left at Dunbar Middle to have two openings, or was that a, are they getting extra, is what I'm saying.
Dr. Pruitt's coming up.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
There's two legitimate openings because the principal, the AP got promoted to principal, and then the other assistant principal got reassigned, so they had two openings.
Okay. And Island Coast is not replacing theirs?
No.
And how many do they have then at Island Coast?
I don't know. I'm sure we can find out real quick, but.
I think they had three. He was the third one, I believe, if I remember correctly.
No, they had at least 4 or 5. I just don't know exactly how many, but we can find out.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yeah, this brings a thought to mind. Is there a general number that, you know, how many assistant principals, if it's a school of 1,500 versus 2,000, or what's the general number? Because I know the principals can kind of tweak some things.
Yeah, we do have, based on the level of the school and then also the population determines what is put in the formula. However, you know, for example, a Title I school, if they chose to use their money in that manner, they might be able to add an additional assistant principal. And they, you know, make those decisions based on their budget and based on, you know, their particular needs at their school.
Okay, but is there a baseline, like our very smallest elementaries, let's say, would have one?
Have 0 at our very smallest.
Oh, very small.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and then generally your average elementary is going to have 1 assistant principal Your larger elementaries will have 2 assistant principals. Your middle schools average will have 2. There are occasions when they get over, 12, 13, 1,400, that there would be a third. High schools generally are 4, but in some cases you'll have 5.
Okay, and again, as you said, the Title I money could be alternately used to add another AP if the principal feels necessary.
Correct.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Just FYI, on their website, without Mr. Woods, there will be 5. Just
Without him?
without him, there'll be 5.
They
He-
still
he
have
is-
5?
He is the 6th, correct, on the website. Ms. Giovanelli, do you have any questions?
That happened.
Ms. Giovanelli? Ms. Morgan, do you have any questions? Okay.
Did I hear?
Okay. Ms. Gittens, do you have another question?
Yeah, well, that was just interesting to me that they have 6 at Island Coast, and how many do they have at East? I don't know, that's strange. What is the population at Island Coast right now? That it warrants having 6?
I don't know. I mean, well, like I said, we can certainly. And I don't even know that there was 6. I mean, I'm deferring to Ms. Jordan looking at the website. Sometimes they list the athletic director under admin when they're not really an administrator, so I don't know if that might be what's
Well,
going.
yeah, it's 1 principal, and then you have the assistant principals, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then with her, it's 5.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, any other questions, Ms.
Somebody
Gittens?
just came in.
Ms. Giovanelli, did you have a question? You said no? No. Okay, thank you. Okay, Dr. Atkins? Thank you, Dr. Pruitt.
All right, next question, Article 10, longevity pay. Does everyone get it, and what is the price tag?
If you're talking, I'll answer that both ways. Yes, all administrators would be eligible for the longevity pay. And yes, all 4 salary schedules now will have longevity pay.
Ms. Gittens, is that your question?
Yeah, the reason I put it in, and I'm trying to pull it up, and I can't find it, but as it was listed,
Got it, yeah.
it had something, the verbiage of, except for chiefs and administrators.
That's for the
And there were 3
1.4%, not for the longevity.
Okay, so with the longevity, is this, and the increase in it, so we're looking at everybody across the board and giving them, and retroactively giving them the longevity, or does anyone have it now?
Longevity is new to the talc salary schedule and new to the admin salary schedule. Does that?
Right.
Yep.
So we are looking at a plethora of people in administrative positions at the district. I'm not saying, not to. I'm just saying we're looking at quite a few people at the district.
It's anybody who's been, it starts at 10 years of service. And that would be the case with all 4 salary schedules. So it aligns across all 4 salary schedules.
And I believe that was listed on there.
Yes.
The scale from $250, I believe it was,
Yeah,
to
it's in there.
$2,000.
Right.
Are there any, Mrs. Vaughn?
Yeah, and I believe on the one-on-ones, you said that was in this school district, correct? Not just 10 years?
That is correct. It's
education.
years of service with the school district of Lee County, not years in education, not years in public education, but the longevity has to do with the commitment and service in this school
Okay,
district.
and remind me what you said about if there's a break in service, someone who is here for 7 years, let's say, does something else for a year or 2 and then comes back. Does that
It's
count?
total years, yep. And it doesn't matter if there's a
total
break in
years even with
service.
the
It's
break.
right. It's your total
okay.
years that you have served the school district of Lee County.
Clarify that. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Ms. Giovanelli, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gittens, did you have any other questions?
No, that's fine. I'll follow up with them personally.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Atkins?
Okay, the next question refers to several items on the consent agenda under operations. K3, which is approval of the ranking of the RFQ for architectural services for pre-K edition at G. Weaver Hips. K4, approval of the ranking construction management services pre-K edition G. Weaver Hips. The architect services or renovation of Veterans Park Academy of the Arts and construction management service. And then finally, building official services for the renovation of Veterans Park Academy for the Arts. The question is, please provide all documentation, PowerPoints, et cetera, for the pre-submission meeting at G. Weaver and Veterans Park builds. And it is my understanding that was just sent. So you should all, and that's being sent to, provided to all board members.
Ms. Gittens, that was your question?
Yes, and the reason that I brought that up, I know that we have a process we've used for quite some time to, build schools and how we go about it. My concern is how that process works, because for example, with Veterans Park, I had never actually seen, and the questions that I kept asking in the previous meetings were, what are you telling the architects when you're putting out the RFQ? And I had not seen until I had a conversation with Mr. Rickenbacker and saw the original plan and the drawings and the maps and all of that. So I know there's timing and there's all these types of things that you have to keep up with. But my suggestion is that we take a look, and maybe it's a workshop or whatever, at how that process goes. It is at the present time, staff realizes through data or whatever that they use that we need another school. And they put everything together. Then they, let the, do the RFQs. But before that, I think we should, as a board, discuss what the possibilities are before it goes out for RFQ. My concern that I've said before is that we get so far along the process and then we're told we can't stop. There's a timing factor, there's a monetary factor. So I really would like to see us look at a process similar to where, staff is tracking and looking at data and sees that we need a new facility or something fixed, and then they do all that they have to do and have a draft with the fish and the data and everything else with it, and that we discuss that and possibilities rather than just this is the one option. That is what is concerning me when we've had times we've discussed stuff on the dais and all of a sudden somebody comes up with a good suggestion or idea, and it's something that is best for children. And then after we get down to that point, have the public input, stakeholder input, similar to what's happening with proximity. We're not at the final stages of proximity, and we're getting input from stakeholders and the board and everyone else before we move forward and before we hire someone to come up with a design and a plan. So that is my question, and I don't know if anyone else had seen those plans, the layout, the maps and everything of Veterans Park, because I know I hadn't. And I know I hadn't seen before we actually did the lambs and all as well. And I know we discussed some things, but I just think that we need to look at this process and be more inclusive in it.
Okay, is there anyone who has Any questions, Ms. Giovanelli?
Yes. Hold on. I'm just trying to put it on normal phone for the speaker. My concern is when we did Gateway or deciding on an East Zone school, we had a group a site selection committee that went around and looked at both properties and made that decision, and that involved the community. I don't believe we did that with this new school because we had Williams property that we purchased separately, and then that wasn't a good, the Estero changed their mind, and then so now we're on a property that we had listed for sale, and now because Estero Village thought that was better for them. And then we weren't included in any of those decisions until after the fact. So I understand what Ms. Gittens is saying, and I just think there has to be a best practices, and we need to stick to those best practices in when deciding schools and making plans. Because I think we need to involve the community more in our planning process. And if we don't know what's going on, how are we going to get that out to the community? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any, Ms. Vaughn?
Yeah, actually, I think Ms. Gittens and Ms. Giovanelli make excellent points on this, and it's always disturbing to me when I find out that other entities besides those of us here on the board are well informed about something that's happening and land use and all the things that go on kind of, well, you have the things that go between the lines, so to speak. And it is, as I think about this, it is disturbing. It is disturbing when something is brought to us and the decision has already been made and the money's already been spent, and even things like with Estero and the original land on block and by Estero High School, where the architect had already been engaged and there'd already been money spent, and that's just one example. So I do think as the governance team here and the people who are voting on spending the money, that what Ms. Gittens says makes a lot of sense, that we do take a look at the process and when we as a board are brought into that process. So I would agree.
Dr. Atkins, please.
I would be happy to take a look at that because I frankly, I think staff could be helped by a little bit more of a clarification, because I can tell you from my perspective, we do feel like that we've talked about this and involved the board at many junctures, but we do seem to have this disconnect. As it relates to Veterans Park, Ms. Gittens and I had a good conversation recently, and I think part of it was about the desire for community input, and what I've indicated previously, and I stick by, and that's that we still have an opportunity to go out and have discussions with the community relative to the configuration of that school. We do have deadlines. That's where Scott comes in with his construction, and sometimes we do have curveballs that are thrown to us, which we saw with the property down in Estero, and we have to be agile and shift. But I would have zero issue with having a workshop, because I think we would all of us here would benefit by having a very clear process in terms of what this board feels is adequate or satisfactory involvement in the decision-making process, because it's certainly not our intent to exclude you from that. I just think, again, from our perspective, I think we have had the perception that we are, but not all share that, and so I would welcome a workshop, and I think that would go a long way to clearing all this up.
Perfect, thank you. Ms. Gittens?
Well, and one of the things I had mentioned at our last meeting, that DOE has the paperwork to move forward on the expansion of the mega school at Veterans Park, and the only thing that they are waiting for is board approval. Board approval will be when we vote tomorrow night, because it states February 9th, so we will be voting on this approval that will, it'll be on the books that this is what we want to do, and that is what my concern is. I don't think we've had enough talking about it, and once the vote happens tomorrow night, then it's, well, we've already discussed it and it's already been decided by the board. At what juncture will you include community? And what options would they be told? Or are they just going to be told, this is what we're doing and we, moving ahead on it? So I would really like to have this workshop. I thank you for providing us. I've been asking for a timeline on projects for quite some time, and I know we did receive one. I was a little disappointed in the detail of it, but we can discuss that in the workshop as well. But I am very concerned about the vote tomorrow night to move forward on the expansion of Veterans Park without input from enough stakeholders.
Well, again, we can, as I indicated earlier, we can have input, and I think that we're looking at, engaging the first part of this process is what that, and I'll ask Kathy to step up and be a little bit more specific, but we're talking about, engaging the first steps of this process so that we can get started, but that does allow us to continue to go and get community input. It's just that we need to get working on the renovation of this school, because we do have capacity concerns in that area that we would like to take care of. But in terms of the actual structure of the school itself and how it's organized, we would like to see it responsive to the specific needs at the middle school and the elementary level on the one hand, but on the other hand, in terms of how we organize that, I think is something that we can continue to talk about, whether it's a mega school where you have, both of those populations contained within one number, or if you have something like we started out at Gulf Elementary, we had Gulf Elementary, then you had the Gulf Elementary Primary Center, which started as 2 schools with 2 principals. And then we determined really it works much better as 1 school, so that's where it is today, and it's been that way for some time. Doesn't mean that's necessarily the answer here, but we can certainly look at that.
Well, and I believe, go ahead.
Can Ms. Fisher has a question real quick, and then maybe that will help you answer.
So then tomorrow we'll be voting on the selection of the architectural services. This is one example, one of the things we'll be voting on. I think my interpretation was that we needed to engage the potential architect first before we got information to discuss, so that they could be directly involved in the design and planning, or planning and design.
Yes.
Was I off base, or?
No, that's correct.
Good afternoon. For the record, Kathy Ebaugh, Executive Director in Operations. As Dr. Atkins correctly said, this is building the foundation for the work. This does not necessarily preclude what is going to be done. We welcome an opportunity to have a conversation about the process that we go through, so that you can have input and provide staff the necessary direction as we go through these processes. But for this purpose, for this vote that you're making, this is just the foundation. This allows us to engage with the architect, and as Ms. Fisher correctly identified, this allows the architect then to be able to be a part of the conversation, hear what is being discussed at the community level as we describe options. We've talked about this as being a project where we are looking for answers, and we're looking for the architect to help us understand what the answers might be. What are our options on this campus? It's an existing campus. It makes redevelopment a little bit more challenging, because we're not starting from a clean slate. and we would like to engage our architects so that they can help us make the decisions and understand what can happen on the campus.
Ms. Gittens?
Okay, here's where part of my confusion. I was able to attend when we were first talking about the Innovation School. And I attended the mandatory RFQ meeting. And at that meeting, architects are sitting there and staff is showing them, this is what we're looking at doing. Here's the timeline. Go back and come back and give us your, designs or whatever on doing this. Part of the presentation to the architects was a paper called The Reorganization of Phase 1 Veterans Park. It lists in there configuration of the school program, K through 8 in the old current Veterans Park, 4 to 6 in the current Veterans Park, 7 to 8 in the old Lambs. It lists everything that you want to do. I have not seen this. I don't know if anyone else had seen how this is laid out. And I'm sorry, but when we're talking about spending millions of dollars, I think the board needs to be aware and educated on what that's going to look like and have an opportunity to give input. I don't think this is one of those where, we're in the weeds. I do not think that we are.
First of all, Ms. Gittens, as I said, we're happy to have a discussion, as Dr. Atkins had mentioned, about the process and allowing that discussion to happen earlier. But secondly, I think the two projects that you mentioned are a little different. In the case of a campus like Gateway, where we know exactly what we're constructing, then the RFQ meeting is exactly about that. It's about doing the specific project. In this case, this campus is a little different. We're looking for options, and the materials presented to the potential architects and construction managers and building officials were to provide them the array of ideas that we are considering. It does not necessarily mean that that is absolutely the final program that will be developed. It's because it's a redevelopment project. We've talked about it being something that we want to get options from them. We're giving them some of what staff is thinking about, but it does not mean that through this process, working with the architect, that we won't come up with some different options. In fact, we have said in this case, we specifically want options. We want to know what might be able to be accomplished this way, what might be able to accomplish that way. Additionally, at your next workshop, you will be having a presentation from a team of us that will be talking about the community engagement process that we would like to start and discuss with the community what options they would like us to work with the architect on. So it is a little bit different when you're building a campus and you know exactly what you're building. Then that is the program of work that we expect to build, or at least that's the foundation for that program of work, and it stays pretty true to that course. In this case, we're talking about a campus that we want to have alternatives and evaluation of what those alternatives might be. So they're two different kinds of projects.
Right, and I understand that, but when I went to the process on the Innovation School, it was not hard and fast either, because there was negotiations about how that was going to look and the walls and all that. So it's not totally different, but I understand what you're saying. I'm done. I'm just, I really am tired of being told after the fact, this is what we're going to do, without input that is necessary. I mean, we talked about this being possibly 2 K through 8s or a unified campus, and that just went by the wayside. And there are community members that have talked about it as well. So I've taken up enough time, so.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who has anything to share? Any other comments? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ebal. And I just wanted to let Ms. Gittens, because I looked at it, Eastleigh has a total of 5 principals,
Baker.
Right back.
Where's our exit?
I don't know who used theirs today, but
You have a what?
it's just a joke. Each of us can just kick it one.
Okay, I believe that we're back on, and Dr. Atkins, if you will give a brief description of why we had to leave, please. Thank
Just
you.
very briefly, we had a faulty panel, and again, our maintenance has been dispatched. It did set off the alarm, but again, no danger to anybody in the building. Was actually a good opportunity, I think, for us to practice our drill. If it should go off again, and again, it's if it is a fault, they'll do an all call, so we'll be able to hear. That way, people don't have to evacuate if that's all it is next time. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So, moving on, so we were on the agenda and the questions. Ms. Giovanelli, are you back with us? Ms. G. Okay, well, thank you for sticking it out with us, appreciate that. Everybody safe. Dr. Atkins?
All right, I believe we've come to the end of our agenda review questions, so
Okay.
the next would be the prioritization of the workshop topics.
I do have, can I say one more thing about agenda review?
Yes, Ms. Gittens, please.
Okay, my concern with agenda review when we first started, everybody had some questions, and some had more than others. And I don't know if we need to talk about this when we have another workshop or something, but it just seems like I'm the only one that has the questions. And that kind of, makes it look as though I'm the only one that's not a team player and not doing my homework and all that, and I am. And as I've told the superintendent, I look at every item on the agenda and make sure that I know what it's all about. So I would hope in future that other board members would participate in the agenda review. If not, I see it headed for a demise. So thank you.
Ms. Gittens, thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. So moving right along, is there anyone else that had any other questions prior to moving? No, seeing none? Oh, yes, please, Ms. Giovanelli.
I appreciate the agenda review because I learn a lot from it, just from others asking questions. So I do appreciate the review time and the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Giovanelli. Okay, Ms. McClung, are you with us now?
I'm with you. Good afternoon. Nice to see everyone.
Okay, so we're moving to prioritize workshop topics, and everybody did receive the parking lot list update that was sent out to us. And so if we can just go over that to make sure that is where we need to be at. Right now, we have the disparity study update, which is scheduled for February 23rd. The board stakeholder communication plan, which is going to be, we have that scheduled for March 23rd. And then we have the other topics, the clarification of board attorney role, job description, evaluation review of legal department organization, and that's on March 22nd. And so we'll have different speakers. Mr. Williams will come in and give us a synopsis of what has taken place since the inception of how we had it set up. And then we'll go through and do the rest of the job description. I'm sorry, Ms. Vaughn, did you have a question?
Yeah, I thought we were going to get the additional list from executive office.
Ms. Giovanelli, can you put yourself on mute, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, some of these were generated by us here on the board, but I understand there's another lengthier list, and I thought when you and I met with Ms. Dupree-Bruno that we were supposed to get access to that longer list. So I'm just asking, where is that list?
That list that you're referring to, this is the list that our meeting is pertaining to, it's the list of the board. So the
I
work.
totally understand that, Madam Chair, but what I'm asking is, where's that other list? Because there may well be some overlaps. There may well be things that are coming up that we can say, oh, hey, I'm really glad you want to cover so-and-so topic. When you cover that topic, could you also be sure to include? So what I'm asking is, when are we getting that additional list that has been promised to us?
Ms. Gittens?
And that was my question. When I saw this, I'm like, okay, I've been on the board 2 years, and I know there's been several things that I have said we need to workshop. Most recently, there was Leave Virtual School. And then there were some other things, and I was told, yes, it's being put down, it's put in the minutes. I go back and look at the minutes, it's not there. You have to go back and watch the video to see what was said. And I just know there were more things than this. I don't understand how there's only 2 things from 2 board members.
Okay, this list is comprised, and Ms. McClung, if I'm misspeaking, please help me and correct me, okay? This list came to be based on our conversation up here and deciding what we were definitely going to follow up on. And then after all was said and done, these are the ones that we had come up with, correct?
Yes, the last time we met to talk about workshops, you had a full list that we went through and chose which ones you wanted to continue as workshops, which ones you wanted to go to briefings, and then you prioritized the ones that you wanted to be workshops, and I believe there were 4 topics. I believe what you're asking is, are there other things that have already been scheduled that were not included in that? And yes, there are some topics that have been scheduled, and we'll make sure that you have access to those if they have not already been added to this list.
Ms. Vaughn?
But my point is, we should have that right now, because that will help us make a better decision on prioritizing this. Does that not make sense to everybody? That if there's some things that will mesh together that we want and has already been from executive offices, I feel like I only have half the information in front of me. And with all due respect, Madam Chair, when you and I and Ms. Dupree-Bruno had that meeting, it was my understanding that we were going to get that list. May I ask Ms. Dupree-Bruno if she knows anything more about this?
So you have 2 different workshops. One workshop is board-driven, which is this parking lot list. These are the items that you went through last time and you prioritized. Then you have another set of workshop. Some of those topics in those workshops are mandatory by statute, such as budget and those kind of things. And it's my understanding after that meeting that we had that that list is a working list, that things come on and come off of that list. So that's the only thing I can add to that conversation. That's my understanding.
Yeah, but again, I'm trying to be clear here. I understand every bit of that, but it was my understanding that we would have had that list today to help us make these decisions.
Well, Madam Chair, if I may.
No, I'm done. I've asked the question 3 times.
Let me just clarify, though. This list that you're looking at right now is
I'm sorry, Ms. Giovanelli, please put yourself on mute. Thank you. Okay, we hear everything you're saying, Ms. Giovanelli.
So this list, the parking.
Can they mute her?
Somebody call her or text her or something, please.
Can they mute her?
Ms. Giovanelli, can you hear me? Ms. Giovanelli? Thank you. Mr. Bruno, please continue.
So the parking lot list from the last workshop, I think it actually has been a couple of workshops, the board was talking about the different topics that the board wanted for its workshop. So that is what is reflective in this parking lot list. The other list is with regards to, I'm going to call it governance team topics, which were not something that was part of the items that you had discussed at the last workshop. That's a completely different thing. So I don't know if these two lists impact each other. I don't believe they will impact each other. I know that there was a request made to know about the other topics that were pending on the other workshop, but I don't believe they will impact each other because this list is completely driven by the board.
Ms. Gittens.
Okay. In Ms. Vaughn's defense, I am confused by this list. Because, first of all, I see the one on the top, board moved to briefing. Okay, who moved it to briefing? And I thought we had decided that every topic would have who suggested it and the date. So the confusing part is that only the two new topics at the bottom, which is not a concise list of all the topics that we've suggested, are at the bottom with no date. Prior to 125, there were other requests, and they were as timely as some of the other things on here. I just don't understand what happened to the whole list. My thing would be the briefing at the top. I'm not sure, the ones that are scheduled, I gather, are in green. That's what's going to happen. And then the other requests at the bottom should have a more extensive list of all the things that we have asked for.
Okay, if I may, we as a governance team decided that we wanted to have one designated workshop for what we wanted to see. Based on that, some of these did not have dates on there when they were asked for, and moving forward, it was stated that we need to make sure we know who requested it. Right. And if it's requested, we had to make sure that the board gave consensus, all of the board gave consensus to that being one of those. Not one individual board member was going to decide what we wanted to speak on. But also, a date was going to be put on there too, so that way we can follow to make sure that there's not an item that will be on here that, you know, a year ago I asked for such XYZ and it did not come before. So that's why we are making sure that there's dates on everything and who requested it, so we can follow back up with that individual person. And then furthermore, with the dates, we wanted to make sure we were showing that these were topics that were already asked for, the topic titles, the scheduled workshop dates, to show that, yes, we've asked for these and they have now are following through with our request to give us what we have asked for. So that's why you see the dates. We're trying to make it as simple as possible for understanding.
Ms. Jordan, I believe part of the problem may be this is just a screenshot. This is not the full spreadsheet. Now, you do have access to the full spreadsheet, and on that spreadsheet there are multiple tabs. This is one of those tabs. So the spreadsheet has all of them. The first page has all of the ones that were discussed at the prior workshop, and then the next page shows you where they've been moved. The board agreed at that workshop to move these two items to a briefing. That was consensus upon that at the last workshop. These two are the ones they wanted you to know what had already been scheduled, and then we have two more that we need to come to consensus on so that they may be scheduled. I believe what you're asking for is when you're wanting to know what other topics, there is a working document that is kept that changes based as things are added in. I'm happy to read to you the things that are coming up if you want to know that, to see if they would affect these. And Ms. Stillwell just came up and said that we will find a way to make that accessible. It is a working document that generally Cabinet works with and adjusts those dates as needed.
Okay.
And then Mr.
I understand all of that. One more time, we have discussed this working document. We have discussed the possible challenges of sharing that working document. At this point, what I would like to do is make a formal request that that document, somebody figure out how to share it and share it with us. I appreciate your willingness to read out loud or whatever, but that's just not, it just, to me, would have been so much more helpful to have the big picture, to see this document, to see some of the things that you're talking about. So, Madam Chair, what I would like to do is to see if there's a consensus. Am I the only one on the board that would like to have that document shared so we can see the big picture?
And I think that, I know, Mr. Preburner, did you have something else to share before I?
The only thing I was going to add is just to remind everybody what the purpose of the workshops are for, because I think sometimes there's a confusion in terms of the workshops, the briefings, and what we're supposed to do. The purpose of the workshops, and this is pursuant to your board manual protocol, the purpose of the workshops is to provide the board members time to explore in-depth issues or topics relevant to the board. Workshops may be led by staff members or by the governance team as appropriate. Board members may suggest workshop topics. As a member of the governance team, the superintendent may recommend workshop topics deemed relevant to the district's successful operation and facts-based decision-making. So the workshop are board directed, and then of course the superintendent as part of the governance team may also make recommendations, and there are certain things that have to be workshop per statute, such as the budget. So with that in mind, I do think that the board should have the opportunity to know what workshop topics, because this is really something that is geared for the board's benefit, per your protocols.
Okay. So the workshop, I mean, the information that Ms. Vaughn is speaking about is a work.
Can I describe it for you?
Please.
All right, so we have had for many years, actually, a working document. It used to be in Excel, now it's Google Drive, that we use as a planning spreadsheet so that we can put, appropriately spaced briefing, agenda items, workshop items that we need to do the business of the district. There is a need for that document and understanding on the behalf of the board for our organization to be agile, and we need to be able to use that to schedule those things. We work quite extensively, like with Jen, for example, to make sure that we try to get things timed appropriately. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle. So again, I don't have any issue with having you have that, or at least know what's on it. That's not the deal. Just please understand that the need to do certain items in a timely manner sometimes is very important, and so we try to shift things around in order to make sure that we are able to get you the information you need prior to that coming to you for a decision. And one thing I'm going to talk about today, an example is, we just got notification from the DOE about class size requirement, and I'm going to have to bring a good calls item. We couldn't brief that, but if I had enough time to brief it, I would. But there's an example of having to be agile and get something on a board agenda without a lot of time to do it. So as you get further out from February, that gets more and more sparse. But we have things on there, for example, like when Dr. Desamore has the statutory required briefings and workshops on the budget. That's all put on there in advance, so we have a placeholder there to make sure that everybody knows that's coming up. But then there may be a decision that's going to come before the board in very near future. And because of timeliness, we need to have the flexibility to be able to put something on a briefing agenda. And so so we're often having to work to move things around to make sure we can get everything on your all's agenda that we need to.
And then that would not be something that we would have a conversation about what you're putting on, or Jen is putting on that. And most of the people up here have been the chair, so they have been privy to that and have worked with the superintendent and Jen to Ms. Schaefer to make the agendas. And Ms. Gittens?
Okay, and yes, I have been chair, and I was privy to that list. And we've heard from several people, and at least I understand, there are certain things that we don't have control over with budget and things that come up on the agenda. That's fine. There is still the other list of topics that we say, I would like to hear more about this. Whether it's a briefing or a workshop, it is a topic that whoever can decide if it's a briefing or a workshop. It gives us an opportunity to learn about it and ask questions. And so I see this as that last gray part should be that list of things. And having only 2 things that came up in January just precludes everything that has happened up to this point. I know there are a plethora of things on that topic list that we have said, and we have been told, yes, it's being put down. I've been told several times, yes, Ms. Gittens, we have that down. I don't see it on here. And certain things are timely. When we were going through all of the stuff with the opening of schools and with Lee Virtual, and when I asked about doing Lee Virtual, and Ms. Jordan, it wasn't just me. We took consensus and everyone said, yes, that would be a good topic. And I don't see it here. That's all that I'm saying. And I would like to see the things that Jen and all of you have to do, that's fine. And then maybe allot 2 spots at a meeting or whatever for board topics to be added on there. So we know that at least we can move that list along from time to time, that there is space for board topics to be either briefed or workshop.
And that is what we thought we were doing with this list with everyone, coming up with the parking lot list. This is what we had all discussed, and we had decided that we wanted to put this together. We sat here, and I know that one day that we sat here, because we went back and looked at the meeting, we had quite a few people who had to leave, or it was later in the day, and we wind up with just a few people sitting here at the board. But we had come up with the list, and these are the lists, and these are the new ones. So when the list comes up, and I will definitely go back, and Ms. McClug, we can go back as well and look for Lee Virtual, if I have to.
It's right here. It's couched in distance learning. So if I could go through these real quickly, that might answer some of the questions.
Thank you.
Because we have made every effort to capture anytime something comes up to put that in here. So the topics that you see now, this is the full spreadsheet, the full Google sheet. And the first page says consensus topics. So equity and inclusion, we had the discussion that would be rolled into every workshop rather than a full separate workshop, since it really touches on everything that we do. So that one doesn't have a regular schedule because it's going to be included in every other topic. Clarification of the board attorney role, the job description, and the evaluation review of the legal department organization, you put that as your second highest priority. If you go to the next page on scheduled topics, then you can see that it has been scheduled for March 22nd. When we finish this, we would like to get some more detail around that, so I'll come back to that. The third one was distance learning, and that included Lee Virtual School and equity, because we wanted to talk about the equity in the distance learning. So all of that would be rolled into one. The next area was the in-house versus outsourced work across the organization. You've heard Dr. Atkins talk to you about a possible restructuring plan, and this would be included in that as to what would need to be in-house and then what would be outsourced. So that discussion will be coming as well. The 2 that have not had a consensus discussion yet were the Success Academy update, which also included restorative practices, and then benefits of K through 8 schools. So those were the two that we wanted to get a consensus on today. And then you could prioritize which of those you wanted to hear about first, and we would do our best to get that one scheduled first. When we go over here to the scheduled topics, you'll see that the board attorney was scheduled for March 22nd. The distance learning, including the Lee Virtual School and equity, would be April 26th. The other two, we're still working on dates for those. The very last page is the page that you saw in the agenda item today, and that's the parking lot list update, which talks about each one of those topics, when it's been scheduled, and then what division is responsible for that. Does that help?
Ms. Gittens?
Can you go back a page? Yeah, that one. I thought, do you, when someone suggests a topic and once the board takes consensus, do you change that to the word board instead of leaving the person's name? Because that would be helpful for someone to know, yes, that's the question that, Ms. Vaughn or Ms. Jordan brought up. Can we please make sure that we have at least a name as to who brought it up?
Yes, the name would stay there. The reason those original ones say board is because we had not been keeping this. When we had the last meeting, those were the ones that the board agreed to at that time, and we didn't know who had requested each one, but going forward, they'll have a name beside it. And we wanted to double check the benefits of K-8 schools. We believe Ms. Patrica perhaps had requested that, but we weren't positive, so that wasn't on there.
And anyway.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It's just that, it could be simpler than just putting the name of the person and the date that they talked about.
Well, and that's what we're doing now, because we want to make sure that we know exactly who has requested this and the date that it has. So moving forward, we will always have that to go back to. Because they could not find who had requested some of these items.
Well, I requested distance learning and equity, and my name is not there.
Okay, so now we know that Ms. Gittens requested that, so.
It's fine, I'll be happy to add your
please
name to
change
that.
That would be.
These were
And
ones
that's
that,
okay, it's all right, but it helps me to know that, yes, I did ask, and it was recognized, and we are working on it.
And that's what we're trying to do, make sure that everybody's name is attached to this. So if you would please just go ahead and change that, that would be great. Thank you, Ms. McClung. Because I think when we went through all of these as well, we asked here who actually, we tried to find out who asked for these at that point in time as well. So thank you for letting us know that. So moving forward, then, if you can see the new topics that we have, because we already know that these above, the board, the briefings and the topics, did you want clarification on the board attorney?
if we could go ahead and get consensus around the last two, then yes, I would like to come back to that after we've reached consensus, just to get some more detail as we work toward putting that workshop together.
Okay.
I asked for a consensus of the board on being able to access the expanded list.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Do we have?
If that's appropriate.
before,
I believe we've already agreed that can be made to happen. I can show you that right now if you'd like to see it.
I think it's really important that the board understand that we're talking about two different topics.
Yes.
Okay? So the board decided that it was going to have one workshop dedicated a month to board topics. This is the parking lot list, what Ms. McClung already went through. The other workshop is more or less a governance team type workshop that has some other topics. Some of them are mandatory per statute. So I just want to make sure what I'm understanding what Ms. Vaughn is requesting. Are you requesting the list of topics from that other list that staff has?
That's all.
Okay, so let me just.
That's all I'm requesting. I'm not requesting to change it. I totally understand the placeholders.
Okay, so
I understand every bit of it. What I don't understand is what the issue is and are not having access. I mean, the board chair sees it and uses it. Could we not have access to that working document? And I know we've talked about it before.
All right, so here is what my understanding is with regards to that document. It's a fluid document that changes on a regular basis. So you could have topic A on there on Tuesday, and then it is now changed to topic C. So I think there's a concern about confusion. I don't know, Dr. Atkins, if you have any opposition to at least just giving the list of those topics with the understanding that this is fluid and this may not occur. These are just things that are being discussed. You do have some topics that are mandatory, for example, the budget, but things come on and off that list on a regular basis, and I believe that's what the concern is.
That's it. I mean, I don't have an issue, I don't think any of us have an issue with access to the list. I just want everybody to understand, it just needs to be, it's going to be flexible, you're going to see it change. That's it.
We know that.
And the easiest way to do it may just be to add another tab to this, so you only have to access one document. We can just add a tab with upcoming topics and just put it right there. And that way, it may change, and we'll just say tentative topics, and you'll see what those are.
Now, there's one other thing that I think sometimes is confusing as well. Sometimes the board is requesting topics, so if we can make sure that whatever topics the board is requesting, it goes on the board's list, and if it's a topic that's being requested either by staff or the superintendent, put it on that list so everybody's clear as to who's asking for which topic.
Absolutely.
Can I just make one statement? That was all, at least, that I was asking for. I don't need to see what you guys have to do because of statutes and policies. All we wanted to see is the list that the board requested and who and when. That's all.
Yes, but the list that the board requested is what Ms. McClung has just presented to you. And what I'm hearing is that you're asking for the other topic that is pretty much the staff's list or the superintendent's list.
Ms. McClung, is there, and I know we have it, so forgive me, because I know we have that whole list, but if you could, please send us the whole list before we consolidate it to this.
Sure.
So that way, everybody would have that, and then can see the correlation of how we came up to this list. And I think that would just ease everybody's mind. As far as a formal request for the other list of what the superintendent and staff uses to come up with workshops for us, I'm going to put that out there per Ms. Vaughn's request. Do we want that to, do we need access to that? And if you believe we should have access to it, put your thumb up.
I don't really care. I don't have any idea what we're talking about.
If it's a side thumb, Ms. Patrica, it's
The request
going to
that
be.
the working, understanding that is not, we do not dictate what's on that list. We do not hold that list as the gospel, because it will change for sure, just as our upcoming event sheets change on a daily basis. So I just want to make sure that everybody's understanding that. Mr. Pre-Bruno.
Just for clarification, the workshops are for the benefit of the board. The superintendent, as part of the governance team, can make recommendations for workshops, and that's the list that we are talking about. So that goes to the board, I believe, is what the superintendent said. He'll provide the actual topics. The list changes, the actual worksheet itself changes on a regular basis, so I don't know if he wants to provide that, but perhaps the topics would be beneficial, and that spreadsheet that Ms. McClung suggested as just another worksheet as part of your regular topic worksheet.
Okay.
So what I'm going to, here's what we'll do. We'll just send you the raw document now, okay? The working list document. And you already have the other document, and then if she works with the chair, I mean, if we're all okay, then she can take that and convert it to a tab on the document that you have here. So you'll have the working document that we work off of, and I think we can just start working off that, correct?
Certainly.
So,
Right.
that way, I think it should be cleared up. I mean, it should be all clear. You'll know, here's the working document, here's the board workshop requests.
Okay. So
You'll
we
have
have consensus, everybody's okay with that then?
And if anyone has topics that they believe are missing, please send them to me or to Ms. Schaefer or to Ms. Stillwell, and we will add them so that they can come up for discussion at the next time that we prioritize.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas has a question. Oh, Ms. Giovanelli?
I understand, I will get to the, I
Okay.
don't see where policies are on here, where they're coming.
I'm sorry?
I don't see where we had the policy, where we were going to go to policies on this.
You said policies, going over policies?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Giovanelli. Mr. Preborno, did you have?
Just one other thing for the board to please not forget. Even though one board member may suggest a topic in the middle of a meeting, that does not necessarily mean that that topic is going to go on the list. You need to have board consensus for the topic to go on the list. So I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page and that's clarified. With regards to the policies, there was, I believe, a topic with regards to Section 1, which is the governance portion of the policies, and I think that the board decided not to move forward with that. If I remember correctly, Ms. McClung, you can correct me if you remember, because I remember that was on the list previously.
I believe that's correct, but I will go back and send you the full list so you can see how they were divided out as to which ones went forward as consensus, which ones came forward as a briefing.
Thank you, and maybe that's something that's good to show here too, so when there's a question, we can look at it and everybody can say, okay, this was on here, however, there was a consensus, that's why we're not moving forward with it. So
And
that
the
way it's
topics
clear.
that, again, these two, the Success Academy and Restorative Practices Update, and then the benefits of K-8 schools, those were mentioned during meetings. We did not have board consensus at that time. That's why they're on the list now for you to decide, do you want that to move forward to workshop status?
Okay. And then with that, so moving forward, though, Success Academy updates, I believe that we did have Dr. Atkins, I believe that I had heard that they were going to come here and do that as part of one of our workshops.
I believe that's
That
correct.
Tommy was going to. So I believe that's already scheduled to be on a workshop, is what I heard the last time. So I guess let's take consensus. So Success Academy update, do we have consensus that we want to hear how they're doing there? And a presentation from Success Academy.
Could you repeat that, please?
Do we want to have a workshop on Success Academy update on how they're doing with Success Academy and Prevention Center? And, okay, so Ms. Giovanelli? Okay, so it is 7-all with Ms. Patrica. You said you can live with it, correct? Okay, so we will definitely have that. And then also, I do want to
Excuse me,
say thank you to Ms.
Madam
Stillwell.
Chair. Madam Chair, excuse me for 1 second. Okay, so the board just took consensus on Success Academy.
I'm sorry?
The board just took consensus on Success Academy. They would like for that topic to be one of their parking list topics, so that when they have their regular discussions on prioritizing, they can include that as one of the topics that they want to hear about. This is board-driven.
This is board-driven, correct. Ms.
Actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Preborno, that's what we're doing right now, is making sure that this is what you want as a workshop. So that one I've put in now as a workshop.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add to that request to include LAMP.
Yes. And if we could include LAM with that?
Lamb, meaning Lehigh Acres?
No, LAMP.
Lamb.
LAMP.
Mothers Program.
Yeah, right. I just didn't hear you with the mask. Sorry.
And then also, I would like to thank Ms. Stillwell for sending a lot of the statistics and regarding Success Academy out on Friday's update. So thank you for doing that. Everybody should have received that. And then benefits of K-8 schools, which we believe that was requested by Ms. Patrica.
Yeah, it's not, may I?
Please.
It's not just the benefits, it's a comparison between a separate elementary and middle and a K-8.
Okay. And, oh, Ms. Morgan?
So, I'm not sure I understand, because I think that depending on the location, the demographic, et cetera, the pros and cons of K-8 versus K-5 and 6-8 may change. So, I mean, if we're going to discuss it relative to a specific situation, that makes sense to me. But what I hear being asked is pros and cons about K-8 schools as we move forward. I'm just concerned that the assumption is we're cutting off or we're making a decision as a result of this discussion about whether we're going K-8 or K-5, 6-8. Does that make sense?
Ms. Patrica, but is that what you're looking?
I asked for the workshop because we need to make a lot of decisions about building schools going forward. And I think this is important information for us to have as background information moving forward. And I also think that, you know, the public should be aware of how staff is approaching this decision-making as well.
Ms. Gittens?
And I agree with that. I think we need to know all the options. And I agree with Ms. Morgan that demographics and et cetera have a lot to do with what type of school you have. But if we have the basic understanding and the basic data, I'm sure that it could be differentiated between, you know, this type of demographic and this type of demographic, and we just look at the data.
So it's for information purposes only, it's so that way we're informed.
No, but information that will be useful going forward as we're making these multi-million-dollar decisions on building schools.
Right, understood. So can I have a consensus that that's something that we would like information on to hear about?
I need a little bit more clarity. Are you going to have it towards a specific school? Are you going to include a specific school? Are you doing generalities? Because what I heard is that there were some concerns that sometimes demographics and other issues may impact the effectiveness of K through 5 or K through 8. So I need a little bit more clarity in the consensus.
Okay, I believe that the consensus is on not a specific school, just a general ideal of how the workings of it. So not a specific school.
Research-based.
Research-based, yes, information.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Can I ask, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but may I ask Dr. Spiro a question? Is there that research data out there regarding the benefits and of different demographics with a smaller or this type of learning community and this type of learning community?
Yes, there is.
And that's all we're asking for.
Okay, perfect. So can I have another consensus on the benefits for K-8 schools? Ms. Giovanelli?
Yes, I agree for that as well.
Okay.
Can we change it to the pros and cons, or, I mean, aren't there, or to say the benefits, that really slants it one way, maybe just the way we express it.
I changed it.
I think that it was comparison between.
Now it says comparison, separate elementary, middle, and K-8.
Okay, yeah, I just worry about benefits, that really slants it. I do recall that when Ms. Patrica brought this up, she was being responsive to some of her constituents, and that one of the issues that was safety issue. So I can see where this would encompass not just learning communities and the demographic, but also the practicality of the buses.
The full experience.
Yeah, and I mean, there's two huge pieces that, when this is discussed or brought in front of us, that I want to make sure that we hear the safety pros and cons on this, as well as the academics, because she was expressing that there were some people that were concerned about bus ridership, and then I think she also brought up something about the bathrooms and
Right. So this would be a
older kids and younger and that sort of thing.
This would be a multi-divisional, cross-divisional presentation where they would explore the academic benefits, the safety issues, the budget, all of those things. So you would get a full
Okay, great. That's
comparison.
what I was hoping for. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so I believe we have consensus, or do I need to, would you like for me to do another consensus with the word comparison?
Just for me, yes, I would,
Okay,
just
thank
to
you.
make sure it's clear.
May I have another consensus, please, on the change of word comparison, separate elementary, middle, and K-8 schools? Please. Ms. Giovanelli?
Can I add that just to define what mega school is, what that means? Along with that,
Can you incorporate
some people call it mega school,
mega
As part of that.
it's on a number.
as part
Okay,
of
so
that
you want to
presentation.
incorporate mega school into this conversation?
No, a definition of what a mega school is, what it is that what it is, it's considered a mega school. That's defining what the differences are, or is there?
Okay, Ms. Giovanelli, I'm so sorry. It's very hard to hear what you're saying. So are you wanting, is this something separate from this particular one that you're wanting regarding?
No.
So you want it to be included?
Wants the definition of mega school to be addressed as well.
That's what I asked, and I thought she said no.
That's all.
Okay,
Okay, so as part of that presentation, you'd like them to address the definition of a mega school?
please.
Okay, so we can put that in the notes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the other thing, Ms. McClung, I did hear as well, the board wanted to make sure that the research information is also included as part of the discussion.
Yes, thank you. So now that we have consensus on those two items, does the board have a preference on which one would come before the board first? Or are you comfortable with letting staff look at timing as to which one could be ready first?
Ms. Gittens?
Well, I believe as we're moving along at a pretty fast clip with building schools, that we should really address this, the K through 8 issue at our earliest convenience.
Okay, so I'm hearing you would like that one before, and included with that, before you ask for that consensus. We have some of the others that have not yet been scheduled, but that have been prioritized. So, Madam Chair, if you'd like to discuss where in the priority.
Okay. Ms. Patrica?
I trust staff and the chair to determine the prioritization of this. I believe that that's a lot of the chair's function, and working closely with the superintendent to determine the timeliness of each of these topics to be presented to the board. So I don't want to prioritize this. I want you to work with Dr. Atkins and determine when it makes the most sense to bring this before us. Please.
Okay, is that acceptable to the rest of the board, that I work with Dr. Atkins on putting this where it needs to be?
Okay.
Is that consensus on that?
No, I think we need input on it, because although the chair does do ultimately what you do, these are things that are important to various people. Look, we have several different people who
I'm not talking,
suggested things.
not the ones that we have, the ones we have scheduled, they are already scheduled. We're not moving the ones that are scheduled, because they are scheduled. So just adding the last two items topics into wherever we can fit them in here, is what I'm understanding.
Is that not what our protocols say? Don't our protocols say that the chair works with the
Yes.
superintendent?
It does.
So if we're going to be voting on when we're going to have topics on workshop agendas, then we need to change our protocols. We haven't changed our protocols, so I suggest we follow them.
Mr. Pre-Bruno?
So prioritization of the workshop topics are something that the board is to be discussing during this part of the workshop. Now, specifically as well, your protocols say that the chair will work collaboratively with the superintendent, setting the agenda for meetings, and to plan, organize, and facilitate the board workshops. So if the board has an appetite to advise the chair, because the chair does need direction from the board, if the board has an appetite to advise the chair, these are the ones that we think should come first, please do what you can and work with the superintendent to make sure it happens. And if it's not able to occur, then you know that at least the chair attempted to do that in her role as chair to work with the superintendent.
So, Ms. Gittens?
Haven't we already said that everyone is, did we take consensus, I'm confused now, on the fact that we needed the K through 8, and now we're saying change it, and it's up to you to decide when we do it?
No, not at all. That is not at all what was just said. These are, what we have consensus on are items that we will bring before the board. It's where we fit them at in the calendar
Right, I understand
to make
that.
sure that we have adequate
No, I
time.
understand that, but I think we also need to know if it's a priority of the board, then it would be uppermost on your mind in working with the superintendent and staff to get it on there.
Okay,
whatever.
so is this a priority? Is benefit, comparisons, separate elementary, middle school, and K-8 schools a priority of the board to get it moved up as soon as possible? Can I have consensus on that? Ms. Giovanelli?
I would say it is a priority since we're about to build another K-8 school.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Miss Morgan.
So, okay, it's a priority over Success Academy, but it's not a priority over the others.
It's a priority over Success Academy because they're the two that we are voting on now.
And may I explain, the reason why I voted no is I think that you are capable, after hearing this conversation, of determining that the board obviously wants to hear on that topic first. And so I trust you in your work with the superintendent to prioritize in accordance with the board's wishes. I appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair,
Yeah, oh, sorry, yes.
Thank you. I know, it's hard to tell who's talking with these masks on. And now if we could just get a little more detail around the board's desires for the clarification of the board attorney role, the job description, and the evaluation review of the legal department organization. We had a conversation last week as we were beginning to plan for this, and we just want to be sure that we're clear on what the board wants. So I'm going to give you what I believe is my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that what you would like to do is look at the board attorney job description, go through that and see if it matches what you believe the role of the board attorney is, and if it matches the job that you are asking the board attorney to do. Once that is clear, any changes that you desire would need to go back to HR as they do the job description. So if you talked about that, they would look at that. Then we would also look at the evaluation to make sure that it matches the updated job description so that she's being evaluated on the job description itself. Then the third piece of that is looking at the legal department organization in terms of what duties go with the board attorney and what duties go with the staff attorney and the other attorneys that work with the staff attorney.
Right, so.
Is that correct?
And if I may, I did share with Brian and them that probably it would be great for them to tell us where, since a year, since they've started this and they now have new staff attorneys and everything. And I think, Ms. Morgan, you actually you're the one who brought this up because we went back and we listened to the tapes. That he would bring to us where he is at this time as far as staff, what his staff, his team has been doing, the cost savings maybe to the district, having those team players together, and then what he does that's different than our board attorney. And if I may, I'm going to just jump to Ms. Morgan real quick because I know you brought this up.
Yeah, so, yes, you're right, except that I think that the last part goes first.
So you would like to look at the division between the board attorney office and the staff attorney office before we look at the job, okay, thank you.
And I believe that's how we had it originally.
We did talk about that, you're correct,
Yeah.
yes, thank
Having
you.
that first, so that way we can hear all of that and then go into the next, so we could look at that.
And do you want this in one board workshop, or do you see it as two separate workshops?
Probably together. I think one, looks like everybody's saying one. And Ms. Patricia, you had something?
Yeah, I was just going to say about the cost analysis.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yeah, I definitely asked
What were we paying
that.
before, what are we paying now? What are we outsourcing before? What are we doing in-house now? And what is the cost of both? I would like to see that comparison very clearly laid out. Thank you.
Yep. And that has been asked. Ms. Gittens, did you have? No. Okay. So, Ms. McClung, are you good
Thank you.
with?
Yes, I believe we have what we need, thank you, and that's all I have for you today, thank you very much.
Ms. Giovanelli, did you have anything to add to that? Ms. Javan,
Again, I'm sorry, what did you say?
did you have anything to add to that?
Oh, well, I am curious what our budget has been over the last 10 years from outsourcing to that. If we could get those numbers again, and what we're spending now, and see that if it's trend, what the trend is.
Okay, Ms. Morgan?
Yeah, well, I think if we're going to look at trend and cost, we need to look at the size of the district and how it has grown and how.
Ms. Morgan, can you speak in the mic?
Is that I think we're going to talk about cost.
Ms. Morgan, you're still not on, I don't think.
Hello?
Yes?
Okay.
Thank you.
If we're going to talk about costs and trends, then I think we also need to talk about the costs in line with how the district has evolved in terms of number of students, staff, et cetera, because just showing a trend for cost is not a valid picture.
Right. So that's why I had asked that that Mr. Williams gives us a report on his legal staff, what they're doing, how they're saving, the cost, as Ms. Patrica just said as well. And I had asked for that to take place first, so that way we can understand what they're all doing, and then that way it makes it more clear for us when we're looking at a job description, and making sure that job description is not overlapping, or and what that needs to be clearly, and then as well as making sure that the job description does match the evaluation, which also has to match the contract. So there's threefold in that. Ms. Vaughn?
Yeah, I just have a clarification, something you said earlier, Madam Chair. You talked about Ms. Morgan bringing it up, and I think it's a good topic to have. And then you said something about we went back and listened to the tapes, and I'm not sure what you were referencing there.
Oh, because I had gone back to make sure.
You and Ms. Morgan, or?
No, not Ms. Morgan.
Okay,
I went back, as well as Ms. Thomas, we went back to look at different board meetings because we want to make sure of the clarity of who asked for what. So we went back, and it was definitely not Ms. Morgan and I. Thank you for making sure I clarified that.
That's how it came across, and I thought,
no,
what?
ma'am.
That doesn't sound right.
Absolutely not.
Okay,
It was not.
Okay, good, thank you.
We just wanted to make sure, because I know I was talking to Mrs. McClung, and we wanted to make sure of what the request was, so that way we had clarification on
Yeah, it's
what
just the way
everybody
it
wanted.
came out, I was like, what?
Well,
That doesn't
I
sound
appreciate
right.
you bringing that up, because, yes, that is not at all what
I
happened.
didn't think so, but
Appreciate it. So you're good with that?
Fine, thank you.
Okay. And then as far as the other ones, we are good. Are there any other items that we are looking at adding to this list right now? Ms. Morgan?
I think we need to add the discussion that was had earlier, brought forward by Ms. Gittens, the workshop on process for decision-making on schools.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan.
And as well as Dr. Atkins had stated that he would put that on his list, so we will put that on both of our lists, so that way we know that we can follow through with that.
Thank you.
If you would like to go ahead and take a consensus, we can go ahead and add it to
Okay.
our workshop
And
list.
I know he's going to do that, so could we also have a consensus, so it's double take?
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I just want to be very, very clear so that we're not mixing these two lists again. If this is a board requested, if this is one of your topics that you want to put as part of your board requested topics, then let's do it that way. Or if you're waiting for staff to add it to their workshop list, then do it that way. I want to make sure that we have clarity so we don't have issues, and then definitely we need to have a consensus to see if all of the board wants to move forward with that.
Okay, the reason that I'm suggesting that we put this on, Dr. Atkins has already stated that he will put this on, but just to make sure that Dr. Atkins is putting it on his agenda, as well as we're okay with that, and we're, for having that take place, I just want to put that on here. So Ms. Gittens has stated it, it's on here, we all are in agreement that this should take place.
But Ms. Gittens stating it does not make it go on the list at this
No,
point.
it does
We're
not.
gonna
That's
have a
why we're
consensus.
doing this consensus right now, which it looks as, right now, that we do have consensus. Ms. Giovanelli, do you agree with us? Ms. Giovanelli? Okay, so we have consensus on the decision regarding the process for building new schools. And again, that way we'll have the information that we need, so when we're out there, we're speaking, we will have that, okay? And then, because Dr. Atkins has already stated that, I will just work with him to make sure it gets on the agenda. Ms. Fisher?
Yes, so we had a workshop regarding the LGBTQ issue scheduled, and it has been postponed, and I was just going to ask for Attorney Dupree-Bruno just to reiterate the reason for that and the impact of the Parents' Rights Bill that is now in the House.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher, for the question. So we are going to have the LGBTQ workshop, which of course is open to the public to come and observe. That workshop will be scheduled for some time towards the end of March. There are two bills, one going through the House, one going through the Senate as we speak, and we would like to have an opportunity for those bills to go through their process, which would be sometime in mid-March, so we know if those bills, which is considered a parents' rights bill, will have any impact on what will be presented to the board during the workshop.
And then also too, for just an FYI, regarding the cooperative organization manual. Right now, they're pulling, also known as the Booster Club Manual, they're pulling together all the best practices throughout this district and other districts as well, and they will be meeting on the 11th prior to sending the information to RSM. So I just wanted to give an update that is still going through. Ms. Gittens?
On the comment that Ms. Fisher just made and Mr. Pre-Bruno was talking about the Parents' Rights Act that's kind of in force right now, being talked about. How, and can we add that to the workshop to talk about how we will communicate that to our stakeholders, to parents and to everyone in the community, to make sure that they are aware of what it actually says and all the ramifications of it. And I don't know if that's something that's happening at the schools, at SAC, at DAC, or whatever, but I think we need to discuss making sure that they do understand where that is and what it is and what it says and what it doesn't say.
So right now, the bill is just proceeding through the House and Senate, so we don't have anything yet until we know what happens at the end of session. But one part of the workshop that is being planned in March will have a legal aspect to that workshop, and that bill will be discussed at the workshop. So you're going to have a legal aspect that's going to address all kinds of issues to include that bill if it is passed, as well as what the district is doing at this time with regards to this topic.
Since we have such a high interest of stakeholders that are interested in that topic, I think that we need to make an extra effort to advertise that we will be discussing that at that point, and have them aware that they are, welcome to come, that it's a workshop and they can't say anything, or would we look at making it a briefing so that they could?
This is going to be a workshop. The purpose of the workshop is so that the board can fully be engaged in the conversation. It's not just staff presenting to you. We are including time in this workshop for there to be discussion and questions to be answered. Second, it will go through the normal process that we have for advertising, which it will be noticed, so everyone will have the opportunity to come and hear and listen to the discussion of the board and the questions that the board raises.
No, that's good information to know. In case someone asks about it, we can say in the future, this is what we will be doing.
Right, and then also, we're waiting for, until session is over, we have no idea where that goes.
Right.
Thank you. Ms. Fisher?
Yes, I have just one more thing. So when people are speaking with their masks on, it's often muffled and hard to understand the words clearly. And I don't know, since we are separated by 6 feet, I think, and have plexiglass dividers, if while people are speaking, and there's no one right in front of us, if while people are speaking, including our presenters, if they could remove their mask briefly during that time, if that would be acceptable.
Ms. Gittens?
Okay, not to be a Debbie Downer, but I don't know that I feel comfortable because I'm not sure and aware how often we do sanitize this area. And if others use this when we're not here, I don't feel that I would be comfortable in doing that.
Anyone else have any comments?
You really can't hear me, Mary? Just teasing. Just teasing.
I do have difficulty hearing Mr. Bruno and Dr. Atkins and Ms. McClung.
Can we turn up their speakers?
It was just a question, so.
Okay. So, thank you for that, Ms. Fisher.
So do you want to take a consensus from the board so we get direction?
Well, I think it's our policy, though, so within the district, so I would have a hard time taking, even though I would love not to have this on my face, I believe that we have to be the example. It's my personal opinion. Ms. Vaughn?
I was going to say the exact thing. We need to be the example.
So do we have a consensus to remove masks? See. Sorry, I failed.
No,
Ms.
that's fine.
Ms. Giovanelli?
It's just a question.
Ms.
Yeah, I
Giovanelli?
can live with it, doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for the question, Ms. Fisher, and it did not pass.
No.
Consensus. Okay, so are there any other items that we would like to put on this list? Now, we're meeting every second workshop will be ours, so we have the opportunity to bring more before us and put on the list, as well as if there is a need for anything, send it to Ms. McClung or Dr. Atkins or Ms. Stillwell. Sorry, Ms. Stillwell. That way we can get this on our list as well. So seeing that, let me just move right along. Okay. That's the end of our workshop then. So I thank you very much. Do you have comments?
No.
No comments today, it's a workshop. Did you have something else to say though, Ms. Gittens?
I did, but
The order?
Madam Chair, I have one item I'd like to.
Yes, please, to go to the order.
Again, we received a memorandum from the Department of Education relative to our class size that came to us on Friday. This is a normal part of the process, and they look at, of course, our Survey 2 data, and at that time we had 10 district schools and 1 charter school that was out of class size compliance. So I know we did indicate that to you all, that we'd had 10 district schools. This memo is requesting that we present our plan our compliance plan back to the Department of Education no later than February 19th. This is how the district will be in compliance with the class size agreement as of October 2021. And so we will do that. It's a simple form that we turn in. This plan, however, must be certified by the school board, and the charter schools have to certify their own, but our plan has to be certified by this board. So what I would like to do is just bring that forward to tomorrow night's meeting as a good cause. I have talked to the chair about this as well. This is a memorandum that went out to all school districts, or I believe the majority of school districts in the state, so there are a number of them that are out of compliance. I want to say it's something like 10 districts similar to ours, and then 7 that are the strict compliance to the law. And but anyway, we just do need to get this back, and so I'm asking for the board to, again, since we just received this on Friday, tomorrow really is the only opportunity that we have to bring it to the board prior to February 19th, and so I just thought it was a good opportunity. So,
Thank you, Ms. Gittens.
is this giving us time before they would assess us some penalties? Do we have a time frame in this?
yes, that's correct. And let me pull the memo. I'll give you kind of the timeline for class size compliance. So December 17th, 2020, memorandum outlining the class size compliance process and timeline was sent out. January 11th was of 2021, deadline for notification of appeals and submission of appeals and supporting documentation. So you'll probably recall that we participated in that process. January 22nd, Commissioner notifies districts of the October 2020 class sizes and compliance plan requirement. Then January is when the review of appeals takes place. And then again, we received the memo from Department of Education dated February 5th. That's what I'm holding in my hand. And in that, the final step is February 19th, 2021, submission of class size compliant plans for districts and charter schools. So that's what I'll be bringing forward tomorrow.
So are we appealing any of it, or we are just saying
we
we are, and this is what we will do?
Yeah, we did submit our appeal to the Department of Education, so that was a part of January, and then this is a response that we will send to them that will say how we will be in compliance as of October 2021. And just on another note, Ms. Gittens and all of you, I do have to be, again, very, very frank and candid, and I want you to understand that part of our issue, we typically are able to come into compliance every single year. And we had that one year that we had that school at Pine Island, But even Pine Island, we won our appeal, and so we did not have to pay a class size penalty for that. And if we come into compliance, I believe we will be okay by October 2021. But the challenge that we are going to have is making sure that we have the teachers to staff our buildings. Now, we do believe that when we bring, if we come into, let's say, full face-to-face next year, let's say we're able to be fortunate enough and get to that point, I do believe that will allow us to bring some of the teachers that are in the Lee Home Connect, Lee Virtual model back so that we can utilize them in the classroom. Also, I think as the vaccinations roll out, that there will be more staff that are more comfortable with coming back, so you could see some people returning back to the school district. So I do believe that it will evolve. But as of today, if we were to do this today, it would be very, very difficult to bring those 10 district schools into compliance.
And in regards to COVID and all that's going on now, they're still not giving any leeway to the schools because of this situation?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I think that the rub here is that you have the law.
Right.
Right, you have the law, and I think we do have some time to come in compliance. You know, the plan requires that we have to come into compliance by October 2021. So it's not saying you have to be in compliance in these 10 schools like next month or anything like that. So I think, you know, for this point, I mean, at this point, I'm not concerned because I do believe that they've given us that type of flexibility.
Thank you.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Anybody else have any questions?
No, it does.
regarding that?
Okay, thanks.
Okay. And then, Ms. Gittens, you said you had something for good of the order?
Yes, I do.
I'm sorry, Ms. Dupree Bruno, I apologize.
Thank you. I would like for the final protocol manual to come back before the board. There were some very minor things, and I believe at the last meeting when this was discussed, board members had to leave, so it was not finalized. I would like for it to come back before the board so it can be finalized and every board member can get the most updated copy of the protocol manual.
Thank you.
Sooner rather than later. I think that would be helpful to the board.
Ms. McClung, can you put that on there, please?
Yes, I'll add it to
Is
the
that,
list.
do we have consensus so that we all have the same information? Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Gittens, I'm sorry.
On a couple of occasions, it has come up that I had done some misappropriation of funds on my expense reports. And 2 different times now, there has been public records requests. And as recently as about a week ago, I had a gentleman say to me, yeah, what are you doing about all that money you're spending of the taxpayers' money padding your expense account? So I wanted to, first of all, let you know, I went back through each and every expense report that has been submitted since I've been on the board. And I did find something that was a little disturbing. In April of 2019, there was a conference in Tallahassee, and I believe Ms. Jordan and I, a couple of other people, went up for the first 2 days for an FSBA training, and then the last 2 days was another FSBA meeting. I stayed at the Aloft Hotel, and there were Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday, and Thursday night. And Thursday night. My granddaughter lives in Pensacola, and she and her mother were coming to visit me before I returned the next day, so I paid for an extra night out of my own pocket. I have the receipts from the hotel that did not charge the district for an additional night. And yet, when you look at the report, there's a section that says notes. And in the notes, it clearly states Ms. Gittens elected to stay an additional night in Tallahassee on her own. I'm first of all requesting that that be changed to reflect the fact that I stayed and paid for it. And I have all of the bills to show that. When you look at all of the rest of the amounts that for that trip, I was gone from Monday to Friday on the district, and my payment back to me was $192. So there was, and that was meals and everything for 4 days. The hotel rooms were $159 a night for the 4 nights. So there is nowhere that states that I took advantage of the district. And I printed out, if anyone wants to see, all of my expense accounts. And I have, there is nothing that I have spent over. In fact, there are some where I did not even request. I have not requested any mileage since I have been on the board, whereas others have done so. So just in public, I would like everyone to know that no, I have not misappropriated any funds. If they really want the records, make sure you print out with that public records request the notes. And I would like to see and know that the note is changed to say that I stayed on my own. It does not reflect what happened and the fact that I paid it, and I can provide my receipts. Sometimes I just don't know why people are just going after other people. I don't understand it. We have so much work to do for children, and for people to have time to try to dig up things is just beyond me. So I would appreciate putting this to rest. Like I said, this is the second time for the public records request and statements to me from the community that I am spending an excessive amount of money. I have not done an expense report since February of 2020. So if need be, I will publish them myself so that we can stop using district time and resources to look up something that is absolutely uncalled for. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ms. Gittens, and I'm sorry that you are going through that. Is there any other good of the order? Ms. Giovanelli? Ms. Giovanelli, do you have anything for the good of the order? No, thank you. Thank you. And I hope you feel better. Mr. Bruno?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, seeing none at this time, we are done, and thank you so much. It is adjourned.